Hello, and I'd like to welcome you all once again to the old schoolhouse here in the hamlet of Butterstone for another one of our wee half-an-hour soirees on a Saturday night. And I'd like to welcome you all. Could you please welcome to the stage the wonderful Tatty Faces, who will be accompanying me with their usual virtuosity. I have to say, I've had a very hectic week. It's been pretty crazy, and it's getting more hectic as we go through it. And first thing I have to tell you is that we're rejigging the whole setup in here. We had a setup that it's about 7 years now, or 6 years we've been using it. So Jamie's been rejigging it, and we're hoping that it's not completely finished, and bits of it are still not. So we're hoping that it all kind of works. Anyway, that's the first thing. The other thing is that I'm very nervous tonight because today I have had a lot of problems with my bees, and so I had 2 hives with no queens. And I managed to get 2 queens. You get them in a wee box from one of the local beekeepers, and he supplies them. And they come in a little box, the queens, with 6 or 7 little attendant bees, because the queen needs to be looked after. She doesn't look after herself. Little attendant bees. And so I had to put them into the hive in this little cage, so that the bees become familiar with her, you know. So I'm a bit nervous. I've got 2 hives out there with these queens in them, hoping that the bees are going to like them. If they don't, they'll just kill her. Which is pretty brutal, but that's nature for you. And the other thing was that I received today the delivery of my ladybirds, which I've put in my greenhouse, because I had a lot of green fly, and somebody said the best way is to get ladybirds, and they eat the green fly. And so I released the ladybirds today in the greenhouse, and about an hour later I went back in, and I can't find a single one of them. So I don't know if they've all escaped already, but anyway, so I'm a wee bit tense tonight. And going to start off with this, which is a song that I wrote about my father teaching me to work a scythe, you know, the thing with the big blade. And I wrote this song because I thought it was kind of like a metaphor for life. So we'll see how we go on. I've not had a lot of time today to think about songs, you know. I still remember when I first watched him work the blade. It was down in the Buckney Den. My questions tumbled and he said, "Is not a thing to learn inside a day. Stand closely by me and try to show the way. You've got to hold it right. Feel the distance to the ground. Move with a touch so light until its rhythm you have found. Then you'll know what I know." Wild are the ways we run when at last untethered out we fly, straight into the burning sun. Need no direction, no, not I. Not a thing to learn inside a day. Stand closely by me and try to show the way. You've got to hold it right. Feel the distance to the ground. With a touch so light until its rhythm you have found. Then you'll know what I know. And so, little dancing girl, you want to learn to play a tune, one that your heart can fill, to help you shine under the moon. Not a thing to learn inside a day. Stand closely by me and try to show the way. You've got to hold it right. feel the distance to the sound, move with a touch so light, until its rhythm you have found. Then you'll know what I know. Then you'll know what I know. And that's my my wee song about learning to work a scythe from my father. And it's not an easy thing to learn. And the only real way that you learn that stuff is by being in the company of a master. And somehow the knowledge magically transfers itself to you over time. It's like lots of things in life, you know, that you can't learn them in a day. Anyway, I'm going to do something a wee bit special now, because this week let's grab this. So, there's reverb there. So we're a bit at ones and twos tonight here, me and Jen, because anyway, a couple of years ago, I bought a guitar from a friend of mine, which is a good friend, and it's a vintage guitar, and this is it, and it's a Harmony Sovereign 12-string guitar, and it's a classic, and it's from the 60s, probably 60s, maybe early 70s. And it was the guitar. If any of you who were around in the 60s or 70s, if you heard a 12-string guitar, it was one of these probably, because they became very popular. And Harmony were a company in America who were trying to compete with the big American. And they built this guitar. Now I've got a list of the people who had. Now nearly every recording that had a 12-string guitar on it would be this guitar probably. And so. You know Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin, this is the 12-string guitar that he was using. Pete Townsend of The Who, he used one of these. Richie Havens, he used one of these. Gordon Lightfoot, any 12, you know that 12-stringy sound that you hear in Gordon Lightfoot records? And Rory Gallagher. And the list goes on and on and on and on. And they're notoriously hard to play. And they're notoriously hard to keep in tune. But I was playing about with it this week, and I'm going, oh, that's a lovely sound. So so I'm going to do a song now with this lovely old vintage Harmony Sovereign 12-string. And it's a song I did it a couple of weeks ago, but I was searching around for an easy song to do, because, you know, you've got 12 strings, and the way it works is you've got the normal string, I don't know if you can hear that, and then an octave string above it, so you've got... that one, and then a wee octave string, a wee high string. So before I do this, I'm going to have a mouthful of my port, because I've tried for years to play a 12-string guitar. So you'll recognize that sound. Anybody of 60s and 70s vintage will recognize that lovely 12-string guitar sound. So we'll try it. And this is the Global Choir. You can help me with this, because it's my wee song, Wild and Windy Night. And you can sing the chorus. All you sing is, Will you hear me if I'm calling on this wild and windy night? Will you catch me if I'm falling on this wild and windy night? So here we go. Here we go. Will you hear me if I'm calling on this wild and windy night? Will you catch me if I'm falling on this wild and windy night? Doesn't it sound great? I think it sounds great. Will you hear me if I'm calling on this wild and windy night? Will you catch me if I'm falling on this wild and windy night? When I may lose my way back home, lose the signs that I've been shown, wander helpless all alone, all alone. Will you hear me if I'm calling on this wild and windy night? Will you catch me if I'm falling on this wild and windy night? And I may lose the sense to run, finish what I've not begun, fading with the winter sun, everything undone. Will you hear me if I'm calling on this wild and windy night? Will you catch me if I'm falling on this wild and windy night? I want to play a wee bit of the guitar just so you can listen to it. And I may lose the sense to dream, for nothing is the way it seems. At all the places I have been, forever unseen. Will you hear me if I'm calling on this wild and windy night? Will you catch me if I'm falling on this wild and windy night? Global Choir, this is your chance to sing along with this beautiful old vintage Harmony Sovereign 12 string. All right, Mr. Tattyface, what do you think about it? Sounds great, doesn't it? Here you go. Global Choir, will you hear? Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I think you're singing better because of the lovely sound of this 12 string. We'll do it again. Definitely getting the vibe in the old schoolhouse here. You're going to hear me if I'm calling. Nothing ever Nothing ever calms the fear, out of sight but always near, waiting for the sky to clear. I will disappear. Will you hear me if I'm calling on this wild windy night? Will you catch me if I'm falling on this wild and windy night? One more time. Will you hear me if I'm calling on this wild windy night? Will you catch me if I'm falling on this wild and windy night? On this wild and windy night. Well done. That was sounding very spooky, and that I think I hope you enjoyed the sound of this lovely 12-string. And like I say, I've been scared of them so this is the very first time I've ever played one in public, and I've tried for years, but they're not just very easy to play, and they're much even more difficult to keep in tune. But anyway, that's the song now. I've got my wee requests here, actually, and the scythe song was requested for Robert Perthshire in Belgium. Hi, Robert. Nobody requested that song because I decided to do it myself, and but we're going to do this wee song now. So I haven't done this one for a while, and this is a song that I wrote after visiting Fotheringhay Castle down in Northampton, and that was where Mary Queen of Scots was beheaded, and it's a very spooky place, and you can tell that something bad happened there. And if you ever get a chance, if you're on holiday or if you're moving around the country, and you get a chance to visit it, and it's a pretty desolate place, and there's not really much left, not much remains left of the castle, because I believe it was taken down. It was taken down by brick, so that there would be no remains of the place where the terrible kind of sham trial and. Anyway, so we're going to do it now. I'm going to have another. Hi. And here we go. Oh yeah, and this was requested by Angela Clark from Madison in Wisconsin. Hope you're watching tonight, Angela. But this is for you, and we go. So it's a spooky kind of song, and because we're in the middle of a transition, we would normally be able to put some spooky lights on, but we can't do any of that tonight because it's all. But the next time we do this, it'll all be will be up a level, hopefully, on our production values. Poor Jenny's stressed out up there tonight because she doesn't know if the buttons are going to work or not. But anyway, here we go. Something happened here in this cold, deserted place where mighty walls have vanished, leaving naught to trace. Something's not quite right where ravens cast a guilty eye, hidden reason still continues to deny. Oh, but Mary, I can feel your pain can hear your heart breaking on the silent fields of Fotheringhay. Oh, I can hear your heart breaking. We give our might to men who then take it as their own, and in our name destroy with every thrown stone. And we stand the simple fools, we watch them break it down. Stolen voice lies silent, it cannot make a sound. Oh, but Mary, I can feel your pain, I can hear your heart breaking on the silent fields of Fotheringhay. Oh, I can hear your heart breaking. We found a darkness here, belief has withered well away. Time has sacrificed, but no one dares to say something's not quite right, where ravens cast a guilty eye. Hidden reason still continues to deny. Oh, but Mary, I can feel your pain, I can hear your heart breaking on the silent fields of Fotheringhay. Oh, I can hear your heart breaking. Oh, and Mary, I can I can hear your heart breaking on the silent fields of Fotheringhay. Oh, I can hear your heart breaking. Maybe the Global Choir could do a wee version of that chorus. Go on, you try it with me, okay? Oh, and Mary, I can feel your pain, I can hear your heart breaking the silent fields of Fotheringhay. Oh, I can hear your heart breaking. Well done. And that's my wee song about Mary Queen of Scots. And actually, in the cabinet across there in the old schoolhouse here, there's a big piece of stone. Because one of the times when I was down visiting it, like I said, there was not much left of the castle, and I was wandering around in the moat, and I shouldn't probably have done this. And there was lots of, and my toe bumped hit this thing, and I looked down, and there's this piece of rock, and I realised it was a part of the wall of the castle that had been that hadn't been taken away. So I took it home here, and I've got it in a cabinet over there, and I've got a cabinet full of special stones that I've found from various. I have a song called the Boat Builders. Up in Cape Breton, and I found a brick from where they built the boats, and it's in the cabinet over there as well. I'm kind of a wee bit weird when it comes to that sort of thing. But anyway, we're going to finish off with this wee song, and I was going to do it on my wee tenor guitar, but I didn't have time because we were panicking a wee bit earlier on. So I'm going to do it on this guitar, the guitar which I just had, and. And one of the great things about living here in Butterstone is that you're continually reminded that people have been living here for thousands of years before you, and the remains of their villages and their round hut circles and burial grounds are all on the hills above the house here. So I wrote this some years ago. I wrote this very bizarre song. So we'll finish off this wee show with this song. I've got a bit of a frog. And this was requested by Greg and Aileen Chappell from Dunedin in New Zealand. Now I've got a whole bunch of cousins that live in Dunedin and Invercargill down there, so you might have crossed paths with them. They're not MacLeans, but it's a lovely. I've been down there. It's a lovely part of the country down there. So, and you can probably get the Global Choir could sing this chorus as well. I've done this before a few times. Here we go. In darkness we do what we can. In daylight we're oblivion. Our hearts so raw and clear are turning away from here. On the water we have walked like the fearless child. What was fastened we've unlocked, revealing wondrous wild. And in search of confirmation we have jumped into the fire and scrambled with our burning feet through uncontrolled desire. And in darkness we do what we can. In daylight we're oblivion. Our hearts so raw and clear are turning away from here. There's a well upon the hill from our ancient past, where an age is standing still, holding strong and fast. And there's those that try to tame it and to carve it into stone. Oh, but words cannot extinguish it, however hard they're thrown. And in darkness we do what we make some pagan noises. In daylight we're oblivion. Woo! Our hearts so raw and clear are turning away from here. Solo, Mr. Tie Face. creative they have worked with their Highland dreams. By Kilchrennan we have nourished in the mountain streams, and in searching for acceptance they had given it away. Only the children of their children know the price they had to pay. And in darkness we do what we can, in daylight we're oblivion. Our hearts so raw and clear are turning away, turning away from here. In darkness we do what we can, in daylight we're oblivion. Our hearts so raw and clear are turning away, turning away from here. In darkness we do what we can, in daylight we're oblivion. Our hearts so raw and clear are turning away, turning away from here. Are turning away, turning away from here. Are turning away, turning away from here. Well done, well done. That's my very strange song, Turning Away. And that brings us to the end of our wee Saturday night soiree. And like I said, we're like headless we're running around like headless chickens here at Butterstone at the moment, with all kinds of things on the go. So we hope you enjoyed your wee half hour, and thank you very much for tuning in. All that's left for me to say is, well, the world gets stranger and stranger and stranger as time goes on. But anyway, wee nights like tonight is good for me and good for everybody, to keep us all kind of grounded. So, and I hope you're all looking after each other, staying cheery, smiling like a tatty face. And thanks to Jenny for the stressful evening that we had before we started, because all the equipment's changed and it's all a wee bit weird. So, but we'll get there. So night night, you all take care, and I'll see you next week. Aikaba.